lot going on? Is your day moving slow? Then kick up your foot and grab.
Not a lot going on.
That one's over, Ben.
Yeah, it's
That's
Tuesday.
over. It's Tuesday.
Evening, and we're excited you're here, and looking forward to some great conversation. Without further ado, here's Harry.
Man, that was so much better than you, Nathan. I just want to celebrate that Ben knocked it clean out of the park. Grand slam home run, Ben. Thank you.
I'm glad somebody finally did a good job with that intro, you know.
And we're glad you're here. You may need to share this thing around tonight or call your neighbor and say, what are you doing for the next 29 minutes? Jump on with me. And we didn't send you a notice today, so but I'm sure you got plenty to talk about. And if not, Ben and Trevor and I promise you, we will find something significant to talk about. But it is a night of friendly conversation with a spiritual flavor. And so we wanted both of those things to happen. And so if you want to jump in early, we can begin down the track you want to go, or one of us will get in the driver's seat. Either way you want to go.
Regardless, we need people to talk in the chat. Ask some questions tonight. It always makes the conversation go by so much better.
That's right.
And we want to hear from everybody.
Yeah. Maybe your birthday today. Maybe we should just sing happy birthday just in case.
To my wife?
Oh, yeah, it's Jeannie's birthday.
Right.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, boy.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeannie, who's 32.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you, and many more.
Throwing out the age.
I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that.
Hey.
It's over. It's over. Jeannie, you go ahead and turn us off. I don't blame you. But it's good. So.
It's not too late to send her a birthday present either, you know. Feel free to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she'll take anything you got.
Okay, Trevor says you can send her cash on delivery once. If you want to, it's called COD, and it'll be fine. So it's all good. Yeah, I forgot. Today was also her granddad's birthday. He would have been 94 today if he were living. But so she was born on the same day as her grandfather, and James was born on the same day as his grandmother, which is pretty interesting. Now, Nathan, man, I don't know if anybody's born on his day. He was born on the day the Berlin Wall was torn down. That's really important information for a Tuesday night, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, that'd be, was that 80s, 90s? What, trying to think when that was.
It was 89.
89. Well,
Yeah.
That would explain why I couldn't remember which
Yeah.
day it was. Right?
Yeah, it was 31 years. No, yeah, 31 years ago. Oh my goodness, Ben. Yeah, 31 years ago. November the 9th, 89. We were sitting in the hospital room, Anita and I, without any kids at that time. I mean, in the room, watching them tear down the wall. Pretty interesting moment. Breaking in. So it's good. What do you want to talk about tonight, guys? I'm wide open. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about.
Let's see, we got a few more people joining.
Trevor says we always have a 40-second delay. Well, I gave you about 23 and you didn't respond. So come on. It's been a beautiful day, a hot day, man. A couple of thunderstorms.
What is with that, man? We didn't, it's like, boom.
I know,
So
right out of nowhere, man. Late this afternoon, it poured too, didn't it?
It did.
It's supposed to do the same tomorrow, I think.
When
isn't
does
it?
summer officially start?
Let's ask Reese. Reese, what's the first day of summer?
Somebody Google that.
I'm going to guess.
All right, I'll look.
Reese has no idea.
I'm going to guess June 22nd.
That far away?
That's what I was going to guess.
I was going
too,
to
but
guess like
it
June
seemed like a
15th
ways
or
off.
something.
No, I think it's way into June. Somebody will tell us. If Tim Miller's on here. Where's Tim Miller? Is he on here? Tim Miller, what's the first day of summer? If you're not on here, then shame on you.
June 20th.
What's
is
that?
the correct answer. June 20th.
June 20th. Oh, well.
September 22nd is the end of summer.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So,
It's good info tonight.
good. Yeah, hey, this is a place that you can learn some things, man. I'm telling you right now, you can learn some things. So here we are. We're not going to kill time. We're not going to wait too long for you to get engaged. We're just going to throw it in gear and run on. So
Your mom says no rain down there today.
she did. Thank you, Mother. It's interesting. She'll call me someday and say, it's pouring the rain here. I said, well, it's not raining a drop here. So, you know, I talked to Dave Kaplinger today, guys. I guess it's okay to say this is just us about the little meetings we have on Wednesday. And I relate to that because we were talking about rain. They had just finished raining. It was pouring here. But he said, Bonnie took the shingles vaccine and has gotten a terrible case of shingles.
I've heard of a lot of people when they get that vaccine, they have some adverse effects from it.
Yeah, she got it, I think, on Friday. And he said maybe since Sunday morning, she's just been down in the bed, really. And unfortunately, she's gotten it around her eye and her nose, you know, which is just further seems to complicate the thing. So you guys remember and pray for Bonnie, send her a note, whatever, because that's kind of an ugly and difficult thing. While we're jawing about people, what about Mort? Is he still at Fraser?
As far as I know, I tried calling him today. I didn't get an answer, so
Okay.
I assume he was
Working out.
Working out somewhere. So, yeah, I haven't heard from him. It's been a few days actually. But,
Okay.
But yeah, so I assume no news is good news.
Good.
So, I don't know.
That's good. Glad to hear that. And Mitch Lucas is at home. Any of you that know Mitch and have been tracking him, and he's home now and kind of moving forward, we hope. So that's a good thing. I'm about to introduce a subject here, Trevor.
I think it's time.
You think it's time to
introduce
introduce
that
subject? So I got a great lesson, guys, this week that was explained to me in a way that I had not really seen it before. And I'm tempted to somehow change the illustration to kind of keep it a little more anonymous. Is that okay, guys, if I change the illustration and keep it a little more anonymous?
Oh, yeah.
You'll be all right.
It is Hang with Harry, so you can pretty much do what you
Oh,
want.
thank you, man. I didn't know I do.
I'm pretty
It's my.
sure you have free reign of this one.
I'm going to change the content. So I have a friend that I know quite a lot that has been a drinker, and he's gotten to where he'd been a pretty heavy drinker. Been drinking a long time. Began to impact his marriage and his home and his family. And he explained to me what happened. It's been the most phenomenal explanation I've ever known. He's been drinking since he was a young boy, all along the way, drinking. In fact, when he was struggling and he was down and he was wrestling, he didn't feel good or didn't feel good about himself, his go-to was always to drink. It was literally his emotional standby and alibi. Now listen to this, guys. This blows me out of the water. So he begins to drink a little too much, and it begins to impact his relationship with his wife and his family. His home begins to fall apart, and he begins to feel guilty about it. For his whole life, he's only developed one mechanism to deal with what happens when he struggles, which is to drink. So now, you become a heavy drinker, you see what it's doing to your family, you see what it's doing to your relationship with your wife, and you get to the point where you feel badly about it, and you only have one emotional tool belt in your emotional tool belt, and that is to hit the bottle. And so he literally explained to me, and really it was a different issue, but he explained to me this cycle where the very thing that he used to get through life, when he got in a bad place because of that, he reverted back to that very same tool. And it was a great picture for me of the cycle of a sinful behavior. They say you get into this way of operating, and then you feel badly about doing that, and the only mechanism you have is this thing that got you in there. So you do that again, and then you feel worse, and it's just like wham, wham, wham.
So that cycle never got broken.
It never got broken. Yeah, it never got broken. And I think I'd love for you guys that are listening to engage with that in any way you want to. I think that it applies to everything from alcohol to sexual issues. There are people that are literally the only way they get through life is some kind of sexual experience. And so they get in some situation where they feel badly about that, and then the only way they know to get out of it again is have some kind of, quote, sexual experience. It's just like, this is the only mechanism that really works for me. And it works probably, I don't know what all I said, it probably works for even overeating or overworking or overexercising, or just like, man.
Yeah, they were saying on the radio the other day, they were talking about Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And I guess I know pretty much nothing about it, but I think there's like steps they go through and all this stuff. They have like a
12-step
that's
program.
like their accountability partner or whatever, and they during this time they haven't been able to meet face to face, and that's been like a major problem for them, not being able to meet face to face. But they were just commenting on the radio that a lot of people that overcome alcoholism become like crazy exercisers. And so they're just like, they just...
Ben, let me give you a quiz. You can answer this one right over your head, right off the top here. What happens when people quit smoking?
Well, they probably start something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it's eating. It's eating.
Or
They gain a bunch
chew
of weight,
fingernails
don't
or something.
No, every time almost, well, probably some do, but the majority of them start eating. And so they quit smoking, and in 3 months they've gained 25 pounds, and they hate, it's like, man, I was never this heavy before. And so the other thing that he's teaching me, this friend of mine, is you got the cycle of the same addiction, and if you don't have that cycle, the other thing that can happen is you just replace it with a different addiction, And had a great conversation with my mom. She's on here. Mother, I'm going to tell on you. You can turn the volume down if you want what I tell you. I like this. Because she and I are so much alike, it's unbelievable. She said, I realize I'm worried because she's struggling with a left knee that she really needs to have replaced. And she gets worried about it. And then you know what happens? It sounds like me. She gets worried about worrying. It's like the tool that didn't get me out of this mess is the only tool I've got now. If you remember when we studied the Enneagram, guys, I remember always wanted to get out of being a perfectionist, which in those numbers was number one. But the danger is you try to get out of perfectionism perfectly, so you apply your system to break your system, and all you do is make your system stronger. That was a huge picture for me of how that I can envision on the back of a tractor, a post hole digger that it just rotates and goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in the ground. And anybody that's got comments about that, experience with that, thoughts about that, man, I'd love to hear what you think or what you say about that.
So is the key to replace those whatever we deem bad habits or addictions with like something more healthy? Like, is that helpful? I'm not saying that's the end-all solution, but I'm saying is that something that can be helpful?
But see,
I don't. Go ahead, Ben.
he's talking about, it's not, coincidentally, some of the things he mentioned have strong addictive properties to them.
Right.
But really, the core of it is it's an emotional response.
Yeah.
It's learning. We need to learn to deal with our emotional trigger. So, like, if it's somebody gets mad at me, and so I bottle up and go drink as a result of that, then I have to learn. I need to have a conversation with this person that's mad at me and work through that, so that I don't have to go drink. Is that right?
Exactly, Ben. In fact, I would hope, to answer your question, Trev, not only would I have to not go drink, I wouldn't develop a fact that I have to go smoke a joint, or I have to go ride around in the car for 2 hours to get over it. You know, it's not always convenient
Yeah.
to have to go ride around in the car for 2 hours. So
Right.
I will give you this illustration. I think, Ben, you may be able to enjoy a little bit more than Trevor, but maybe not. I don't know. My dad was an electrician, and we always went to the supply house to buy stuff. And in those days, he did a lot of residential work, and everything he did was with 12-2 wire. That's a 12-gauge wire, two 12-gauge wires with a ground. Inside, you know, a little flat piece of Romex. And it came in a box, 250 feet of it. And we would run it through the house and pull. But the way it comes out, you know, it's like a garden hose. You know what's happened when you've wound a garden hose or an extension cord so much that you get to wind it, and all of a sudden that dude wants to go that way, and it's like, I'm going to have to flip this. And that's the way that wire was. It was so wound that you start around the corner in the house and it just get all gnarled up and twisted up and bent up. So literally, before we would use that box of wire, he would unroll the whole thing and have two of us stand on each end and do a reverse jump rope on it until we had completely taken the curls and the kinks out of it, and now it was absolutely straight. And man, you could pull it anywhere, you could do anything with it. So that's the picture for me of what I'd like the Lord to do for me. Right. I think, well, I'll share one of the things that happens to me. When I get bummed or when I struggle, one of the things that happens to me is I get quiet. You know, I get quiet with my wife, I get quiet with the kids, I get quiet with everybody. I just kind of, I pull back, I'll pull out a little bit. Now, how in the world do you fix pulling out by pulling out more? All you do is just continue that cycle. And I don't want to switch that by saying, I don't want to switch that to something else. I just like to unkink that thing. Does that make any sense, guys?
Where's your mind go when you're pulling out? When you're pulling away? Does your mind stay on the subject?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stays on the subject.
And probably can't go on anything else.
No, Ben. In fact, this is just a conversation we're having. Ben asked, so I've been working on the word continue. And I know I'm a funny word guy. But I'm working on the word continue, which means to, I looked it up in etymology, and it means basically to succeed. I don't know if succeed is, to proceed without interruption. And what happens to me, Ben, along the way is I don't seem to be able to interrupt that. You know, it's just like, I get that on my mind, and I can get a few minutes by it, and then there it again. Do you know what she said? You remember what she said to you? Boom, I get on half hour down the road. I can't believe she said that. 2 hours later, man, she's got some nerve, you know. And it's just like, somehow, I want the Lord to teach me to break that cycle, to get that thing out, jump rope backwards and get it straightened out.
So you redirect it as being something someone else is doing wrong in your mind. Now I take it and I make it something I did wrong.
Well, many times I do too, Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, oh my goodness. In fact, a greater percentage of the time, it's something that I do wrong, you know. And
sometimes I'm learning, I'm starting to see that pattern. Once my mind evaluates like, 5 or 6 different things about how terrible I am, then I realize I'm in that. I've got this little flag that pops up and says, "You're in that funk."
Ben, do you know what a gift that is? Because it feels like to me, a lot of us, including me at times, I can get in that funk and get in that funk, and I get in that funk, but somebody has to tell me, and by then I'm so insulted, it just makes me mad, you know? I want to talk to you. Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear what you got to say, you know? Yeah. But people that are able to recognize what's going on in their lives because of the Spirit's activity, man, that's a huge gift. It's just a huge gift to say, man, I've been grumpy the last 2 days, and I'm just treating everybody I've just got a short fuse, and I don't know what drives it all, but I want to interrupt this. But Lord, please interrupt this pattern, you know.
I'd love to be able to upgrade my flag to be someone that I trust, like my wife or my kids. I'd love to be able to get to where they can throw that flag up for me, and it's the same flag. When they throw it up, my immediate reaction is to pull back even more, or respond in some anger or something.
Yeah, me too, man.
And tell them how wrong they are that I'm not doing that. But so it's not the same flag. But when
I really don't like being with you, Ben. I don't like what you talk about, man. I really want. Yeah, I'm like with you. And I've come to the conclusion that those continuing, it goes back, remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about things that are perfect, things that are really good in my life. Seems like I can get over those real quick. But things that are really bad, they just seem to go on and on and on. Same kind of issue, where you feel like, Lord, would you help me get to the point where I see that flag, I recognize it, I bring it to you, I follow your instruction, I do whatever you tell me to do, so that I get out of that, man. And here's what I believe, Ben and Trevor both. I believe the Lord can take that wire and reverse it and get that kink out of us.
Oh, yeah.
I
don't
really
doubt
believe
at
that.
all. And sometimes I've been able, when that flag pops up, I just stop and say, God, I need your help. And man, it's, there's been times where it is, I physically feel an immediate release of
I
tension
understand that,
come off
Ben.
of me.
Yeah, I understand that.
Just by stopping and realizing that, in a sense, at least in my world, none of it's real. It's all, I've just kind of made it all up, and I'm beating myself up about things that I shouldn't,
Let me throw it. Trevor, you're not in on this conversation very much. You evidently you're just a sweet and swell guy, and you don't have any of these kind of problems.
No, I mean, you guys are just rolling with it. It's
Okay,
good.
then I want to
It's
roll
good.
just a little bit further if I can remember what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say, so it's interesting.
I was going to ask, outside of the flag, like of the Holy Spirit, like helping you and calling you out, what else do we see in Scripture that can give us hope for anxiety, for addiction, for what we're talking about? If I'm an overeater or I'm a guy that just worries, like how do I break out of that cycle? Like what's the hope that we see in Scripture?
Well, let me do a silly thing like I do, Trev. And a lot of times I'll find out when I'm doing my prayer time or whatever, I write when I pray. So I write how. The question is, I always get this big how. And this sounds really cheesy like the preacher, but one day I felt like the Lord just kind of guided my thinking and said, you got the how spelled wrong. The question is not how, the question is who. So you just rearrange those and say, and every time the answer to the who is Jesus.
Okay.
He bore this, he carried this, he's forgiven me for that, his presence is with me, his grace is sufficient for the moment. So the answer to the how is always who. And that's really helped me, because I bet for the last 2 or 3 years, every time I write the word how down, before I even get done writing, I know the answer is who. Now, that's different than turning and trusting completely and really receiving, but I do know I hope that's not a Sunday school answer, but I do know where the answer is.
The wire analogy made me think of something. So there's, in my job, we pull some cabling, quite a bit of cabling at times for networks and things like that. And some of the cabling, different brands have different characteristics to them. And one of my coworkers and I were working a job, and we ran out of the cabling we normally use, and the distributor didn't have any either, the brand. So they're like, well, just use this brand. It's just as good, and actually it's only $10 more or $10 less or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. So I get that. Man, that stuff just pulled like it was pulling out like a nest of wire. I mean, it's just terrible. I've never seen wire pull like that.
Oh.
We fought that using that wire probably doubled our labor expense. And where the wire we normally use, man, it just pulls out just super smooth. And once I experienced that, now I won't ever use any other wire, even if I have to pay more for it. And I'm just thinking, if we can learn as people to unravel and let God unravel us, we become more valuable to people around us. And we're able to be, better versions of humans and just, it's just a good thing. It's
Absolutely.
worth the work.
Anita shared with me from Oswald Chambers, and it wasn't in my utmost for his highest, as some of you guys read. It was in another little book called Something for Daily Disciples. And she read this thing and it spoke to me, Ben. I won't even talk to Trevor because he's not going to speak to us tonight. I don't know what that's all about. But she said, so often when you and I get in that place, He said, we've gotten to the point where all we identify that is, why I identify in me, is selfishness.
Okay.
But he said it's really not just selfishness, it's really defiance. Because God said do it a different way, and I'm not doing that. So it's defiance. And he says every time you defy the ways of God, you destroy the life of God in your life and experiencing that. So, man, it really challenged me to say, you know, it's one thing to say I'm being selfish. It's another thing to say, you know what? I'm living my life in just exactly the way God doesn't want me to. That sounds a whole lot more serious than just, quote, being selfish, you know. So, I don't know. I want to get that.
Talk more about defiance there. Like, is that just doing what you want to do? Knowing that you shouldn't be doing it?
Yeah, it's great you'd ask me words I know. The word defy is actually found in the book of Isaiah, and I looked it up, I studied the word a little bit. It means without faith.
Without
Literally, the word literally means without faith.
Oh, okay.
You don't have faith. I'm not operating on a faith basis. I'm either fearful or nervous or anxious or whatever. So I defy because there's not a faith connection in there. And man, I don't know. This has been a pretty heavy conversation. Maybe we should talk about hot air balloons or something. I don't know. But
hot air balloons.
It's a pretty heavy conversation, man. But
It's the spiritual flavor.
Those of you guys that ever, and I love being the kind of practical conversations. If you've ever rolled up a water hose, you've got to have experienced that, because it's just like, man, or a long extension cord. It's just like, why does this thing want to go the other way instead of this way, you know? And man, that's just a picture of, I just don't want to live in that kind of bent, a twist. And it could be, anything can twist you up. It can be being quiet, it can be alcohol, it can be sex, it can be spending money, it can be over-exercising, it can be overworking, it can be overeating, it can, I don't know, just make something else up. You know,
It can even be, you know, learning Scripture.
Absolutely, Ben.
I mean, you can do that if you do those even things that on the surface appear like they're great and you should do them, but if you do them with the wrong
motivation,
motive,
yep,
and the wrong heart, then it's not a good thing.
I read Saint Ignatius this week, who was 2 or 3 weeks ago, who founded the whole Jesuit movement in the Catholic Church. And so they had this whole program for praying, 4 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, whatever. And they began to ask if you need to pray 4 hours a day. And he said, if your life is completely given over to the Lord, all you need to pray is 15 minutes. And of course, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of years ago in the training of monks who are in these huge monasteries that have to pray and pray and pray and pray. He said, listen to this. It's challenging, man. It's challenged me. And there's a good article, if any of you on here that are readers, it's called Studies in the Spirituality of the Jesuits. Here's a subtitle, Our Jesuit Constitutions and Cooperation as Union. That sounds like something all of you'd want to read before you go to bed tonight.
Like jumping on
ching,
that
ching.
One, man.
But he just literally says, if you have the classic languages died out to God and His way, you don't spend 4 hours a day. You just say, okay, Lord, I'm lined up today. I'm ready to do what you bring my way, and that's enough. You know, wow. A lot of people, Ben, religion is an addiction more than it is a freeing experience to really live life in all of its fullness. You guys agree with that? You agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a true statement. I think you could use different adjectives as well. Addiction, I don't know, habit, you know, and like Ben said, like, yeah, it's a good habit, but you could do it for all the wrong motives, you know, to get, I don't know, make yourself feel good for the week, you know, which at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Here's a little quiz for you two guys. Mm-hmm. Who was it that says religion is the opium of the people? Was that Karl Marx?
Yeah, no idea on that one. Can I have a lifeline? Ask the ask the audience. Somebody Google that one.
Well, Ben's Googling right now. Something like that. It's the opium of the people.
Yeah, looks like Karl Marx.
Karl Marx.
Yeah, religion is the opium of the masses.
Of the masses. And you know, as ugly and as insulting that is, sometimes it becomes, I don't know, it doesn't become what Jesus intended it for it to be. You know, he meant for it to be, he had come that we might have life and have it abundantly, man. Overflowing, just full of, and we make it. So, man, here we are again, way too deep. You want to talk about hot air balloons? Ben, do you know anything about hot air balloons?
You know, my dad used to take classes to fly hot air balloons.
Did he?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness, is that right?
I don't think he ever actually got.
Did he ever go up?
I'm not sure. I have to ask my mom. Seems like he always did it like, I was a little bitty guy, so I was probably like 8 or 9 when he was doing these classes. But I just remember one night a week, he was always not home.
Really?
And because he was doing all these classes to fly hot air balloons. And I think he maybe went up in a tethered one or something, but I don't think he ever actually flew.
Did you guys, any of you guys ever go to the balloon glow they had down,
Oh, yeah.
you know, at the fairgrounds?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Before Derby, and they'd have all those huge balloons. And,
Yep.
and just the height scares me to death. But
You think we're going to have that stuff before Derby again, Ben? Because Derby got pushed back to what, September?
Yeah, it's going
Like
to be
all the
Labor Day.
marathons and all the.
Isn't it? Is Derby Labor Day weekend too?
Yeah, I'm not
Surely
sure.
Not. A bunch of that stuff's getting moved to Labor Day weekend. I don't know why.
Hey,
I
folks,
don't know
you
why.
need to plan your Labor Day now because it's going to be a busy time in the city.
But surely they're going to do some of that as much as they can because
Right.
it's just too big of a city-wide celebration it just won't be the same if we don't try.
As well as, but I don't mean to make this a huge source of income
Yeah.
to the city, huge source of income.
For sure.
But I remember as a kid, we always would hop in my dad's truck, and usually it was my sister, and we'd get up on the Saturday of the balloon race, and, we'd zoom out to the fairgrounds, and half the time we'd wait, and then they'd cancel it.
yeah, that's right.
After we got
Yeah,
there.
something funky would make the weather, mess them up,
But every once in a while, we'd have a year where they'd actually take off, and, man, we would just chase them wherever they go, and then help them land wherever they decide to land. And so with my kids, I've kind of made that sort of a tradition. I don't know. Would you call that a tradition, Reese? Yeah, she says yes. We've probably done it half a dozen times or something, but successfully. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, and if you're actually the first ones there, they'll usually give you swag and stuff from whoever the advertiser is for the balloon. But
Right.
and you get to help fold the envelope up and all that stuff too sometimes. So
Cool.
that's neat.
Trevor, anybody on
No,
there
I think
asking
this is a great time for people to ask some questions, and if anything people are interested in, have some kind of question that's just, they just need answered, man. We're here to do that.
I want to throw one out for Michelle Marlin, who is Ralph Farron's granddaughter. Her mom, Sandy, is Greg Farron's sister. And Sandy's going through a pretty tough time physically. But Michelle's just really caught on fire and walking with Jesus. And she said, I want to talk sometime about how to reach people that don't believe or how to reach atheists. And I said, well, we'll have that conversation. I've been thinking about one quote. I think it was C.S. Lewis. Don't check me on this, Ben. May have been N.T. Wright, I don't know. But he had a young student in his class who proceeded to tell him that he didn't believe in God. And he said, well, tell me about the God you don't believe in. And he went in to lay out all these characteristics. And he, as a professor, said, guess what? I don't believe in that God either. And so often, what you find in those conversations, people are resisting the image of God, which is not a biblical image at all. And so part of our challenge, and boy, I took us to a deep spiritual, part of our challenge is to just be able to help people understand who the God of the Scriptures really are. Because sometimes they're rejecting the wrong, I don't remember who it was, if it was C.S. Lewis, but he said, I don't believe in that God either. I'm like, wow, it's a good word.
I think a lot of atheists, they reject religion.
Yeah.
And they reject, and religion for me is is a man-made separation between man and God, where I think Jesus bridged that gap.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And so really, I think a lot of atheists they reject what they see and then the way people portray religion, but really, they think they're rejecting God, but they don't really even know, they don't think they even really know who God is.
Ben, you're right on. In fact, many people will make a distinction between the God of the Bible, the Christian's God, and the God of all the other religions of the world. All those other gods, you're trying to reach them. And the God of Christianity, he's trying to reach you, You got to lay down your life for him. And Christianity, he laid down his life for you. So many times people they are reacting against a God that they had not been characterized well for them, And so, man, in our families, in our homes, with the people we know, it's crucial that we represent God well, somehow.
I've been amazed to see, since Heather's been teaching, just learning about different demographics of kids, that the limitations on what they experience in life.
Yeah.
And so their window, she has some students that have never been out of the city of Louisville in their entire life. Wow. That's hard to imagine that.
Yeah.
From my perspective. And and then there's, every level, from there, kids that the only vacation they've ever taken is they go to Florida. They've never been anywhere else other than Florida and Louisville. And that probably sums up quite a few people, actually. But when you think about people's lives and how they differ based on their environment and their experiences, it's pretty easy to understand how someone can come out with a very incorrect impression or vision of who God is, because all they see it is through other people living it probably incorrectly around them.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's important to just love people where they're at. It's not important to convince them of your perspective, but just love them, the way Jesus loved sinners in the Bible, people who are lost. And I think we have to love in such a way that we care about them in such a way that, man, you really want them to know the good news of Jesus. Yeah. You want them to know the peace and joy and love that Jesus brings to your life.
Trev, you remember, and I don't know if, Ben, you would have any reason to remember this. You showed it again the other night. The atheist girl that gave her testimony.
Yeah.
What was her name? Rachel?
Reese, you remember that?
You remember that, Reese? She wore a little beanie.
She wore the beanie.
She wore a little beanie.
That video. Oh, it's probably one you didn't watch, Reese. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think it was
you
Rachel.
Guys were doing it in Zoom.
I think it was Rachel, yeah.
Man.
It's called, literally you can find it on YouTube, it's just literally labeled A Powerful Testimony.
A Powerful Testimony.
And
hey, listen, if you're watching tonight, you've never watched that, you should zoom in on this girl, because the way she communicates how she came to faith is just sweet and beautiful. I don't know how to talk about it, but it's just sweet and beautiful. And the first time we showed it was probably, 5 years ago. And the truth is, I've never gotten over it, which is a little unusual for me because I get over all kinds of things, I
put the link down there. So, yeah, it's great testimony of this young lady who was an atheist. And the reason why she came to know Jesus was because of a friend.
Yeah.
Lived out Jesus. Your probably works better than mine, Ben. Her friend just lived Jesus out like she's never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
hey, Michelle, if you're watching, I don't know if you're on tonight, Michelle. I know you. If not, you'll probably watch later. Man, you got to go to that link and look at it because it's dynamite. And So it's just a good piece, and it encourages all to love, man, just to love, in a way. And I think, as you said, Trevor, and you said it well, not just a syrupy kind of, I'm just going to love you, whatever you do, whatever you go, however you act. That's all good, but love in such a way you really want them to come to know the truth about who God is, and
to have the care in your heart to go the extra mile because you feel like, man, it's such a tragedy this person doesn't know Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Like that level of love and compassion and care is, I think, is what true evangelism is.
Oh yeah, man, it's dynamite.
Because you go that extra mile because you want that for their life, not because you want to pat yourself on the back or that's the mission that the pastor gave you that week, but it's because you know that knowing Jesus can change their life to the better that much.
Well, you guys remember, you were both here the night, Brian Powell. We did a Friday night thing, and Brian Powell made some comment like, come to know who God really is, the most important moment of your life, or the most important endeavor of your life. And I really think he's right. To understand the character of God, it affects everything you are, everything you do. And if this is off, then this one's going to be off. You know, it's just, it's so huge. And I think we struggle in our society right now with that. Anita, it's funny. We've been cleaning our mom's house out. She got a little history book from her mom's hometown, which is in Aldie, Illinois. It talked about this preacher that moved there in the early 1800s, you know? And you're just like, oh my goodness. So he had 7 kids, and he moved with his wife and 7 kids and his mom and dad in a covered wagon. Took him 8 months to get there. And the ministry he had, you're just like, man, the hardships and the difficulties that people, I was embarrassed, you know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how that fits into this conversation, but it's good. It's good. So what else? What do you guys want to talk about?
I've been watching on, I think it's Netflix. Might have been Amazon Prime. I don't know. I can't remember. But
too many options for you, Ben.
It's a series. Well, that's the only 2 options I really have. We have Disney Plus too. That's it. We don't have cable, so we have 3 channels essentially.
Okay, that's good. That's not bad, bro. You're good.
But I've been watching this series. I think it's something like Great Men, American History, or the Men of America, or something like that. And I've only watched the first. I'm not even through it all the way, but I'm partway through the first episode. But it's talking about what's his name, Vanderbilt. I forget his first name. His name's escaping me. But tells his story, and then and then it follows up with the connection between him and John D. Rockefeller, and then I think it's going to probably go into Rockefeller's story more after that, but. It's pretty good so far, but it was interesting to me that Vanderbilt was not. He was extremely wealthy, and he was pretty dirty in how he dealt with other people. I mean, there's two of the biggest moves that he did in business are both massively illegal today. And well, actually, one of them he had done to him. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I guess maybe that's what goes around comes around kind of thing. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think a lot of times we look at history and we have this little snippet of time where we or information that we attach to a person's name, and then that's really all we know about them. And when we get a more detailed information about how they live their life, we may not like what we see quite as much.
Can I jump in with that, Ben, for a minute? I would tell you, it's so interesting. Being a pastor, I've done hundreds of funerals. I don't know how many in my career, lots and lots and lots and lots of funerals. And I found out real early on that families want to hear about their family. So I always try to meet with as many family members as I can and just interview about the family member. And inevitably, I come away with a different level of respect and appreciation for the person. Now, granted, sometimes there's some ugly surprises you didn't expect, but you just begin to hear the whole story, where they've been, some of the struggles they went through, and how they operated in this moment, and those stories get told, and the stories of people, just like you said, we narrow them down to some little snippet that we know or somebody's repeated, and we don't recognize that, man, there was a lot of marvelous stuff there that we never even knew about. And so I appreciate that and I understand that. Okay, anybody want to talk about something else? We're wide open tonight, man. Rush used to say, what did he say? Something about this is Friday. You get a call in on Friday. You own the show on Friday.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I just made all my liberal friends mad. If you quote Rush, you make half the world mad. Hey, you make half the world happy and you make the other half mad.
That's how it goes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know about any call-in shows on NPR, so.
Yeah. But
We can talk about the youth fundraiser we have going on.
Okay,
right
go ahead,
now.
Trev.
Yeah, we've got a youth fundraiser. And as you can see, it's an envelope fundraiser.
Where's Vanna? Isn't Vanna White here?
Yeah, where's Vanna?
Vanna!
I thought Vanna White was supposed to be here. Wow.
Vanna's out.
Reese
Vanna's
was
out.
supposed to
Come
over
on,
here and
Vanna
help.
Banana.
So we have this awesome envelope fundraiser that anybody can join in, and some people have already joined in the church and grabbed an envelope, and if there's $14 bill,
Oh, that's not
There you
Vanna.
go.
Come on, give me a break.
so if the envelope says $14, then you put $14 in and drop it in the offering plate or drop it.
Hey,
by the
what if I'm
house.
watching tonight and want to do that?
You can do that digitally through LouisvilleFirst.org/give. So you can go to our online platform or you can just Facebook message us and say, hey, mark me down for envelope 82, and you can give $82. And what this is, it's a fundraiser for the teens to go to summer camp. So it's a very spiritual event that we have coming up, and we have 16 teenagers that are interested in going, and so we need to get some funds for them to make that trip cheaper and just more affordable. And so this is the way that we're going to try to do that this time around. Because unfortunately, if parents can't afford it, then those teens usually can't go to these events, and so we try to do our part. And some people already stepped up and done a great job of doing that, and so we just want to open that up to anybody that's watching.
Trev, I don't know who did it, but it's interesting. Look at the bottom. The 100, the 99, and the 98 are all three
See
gone.
that? Yeah, that's a
It's
blessing.
just
When I first walked in, well, actually, the first thing I noticed was the 4.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing about this fundraiser, man. Is like
The 4.
The reality is time right now and during this, like, money's tight for some people. So, man, if you can give $2, we'll take it, man.
Yeah.
Let me
I
tell you
think
something
it's
really. Can I just share something cute?
Yeah.
So maybe it's just too much information. I don't know. But anyway, I did a funeral, and the family gave me $50 for doing it. So I had a $50 bottle of $50 in my pocket. And I had a $1 bill in there, too, before I had the 50. So I had $51 in my pocket. There's one of the ladies in the church, I won't drop her name because she'd be mad if I did, but 2 or 3 times a year, she'll give Anita a little gift. So out of the clear blue sky, she gave her 50. So she said, what are you going to give on the board? I said, well, I'm going to give whatever's in my wallet, which I think is $51. And she said, well, I got 52. So I took 51, she took 52. She just had to one-up me, That's all right. I'm used to that. But so that was kind of fun. We
That's
just
awesome.
had fun with it. But yeah, it's amazing. It's a neat little.
Yeah, just a little
neat
fun
little
fundraiser that we're
opportunity,
trying to do.
How much does that whole board raise if all of them are gone?
It's over 5,000. If every envelope, I didn't do the full math. I think Jim Wade and some of those like financial guys in the church were out there like adding up on
I think
Sunday.
is it factorial? I don't know. That's a Heather question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Heather
I'm sure-
could do that.
Yeah.
Heather, if you're watching
I'm
right
sure
now,
somebody in the chat can answer that for us.
factor for us very quickly. X plus 1 times 99 or whatever. I don't know, and
idea.
give us the answer.
It's over 5,000,
She
which,
could-
that would be such a huge blessing to get that. That's not the point. The point is just to give people an option to say, man, if you got $10, give $10. If you want to be generous and give 100, man, we'd love for you
It's
to
too
do
late.
that.
The 100's gone. The
Yeah.
most you can give right now is 97.
What we should have done, Ben, and I messed up. What we should have done is put envelopes on there that say "surprise me,"
Oh,
and then
yeah.
that person can give
there's-
whatever they
You
want.
get
Just
2
fill the
quarters in one
blank
of them.
You can fill the blank spots now,
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's right.
That's a good point, Ben. I like that idea.
Surprise
Fill the
me.
blank spot.
I mean, actually, you could take more than one envelope
Yeah,
if you want to give more. Yeah.
Sure you can. Thank
Yeah.
you, Ben.
Yeah, you can give online.
You see his math skills coming out. In fact, you could give the 60 and the 80 together and you give 140, isn't that right,
That's
Ben?
right. You could.
Man, this is starting to expand.
You can give
In
online.
fact, if you give the 10, 30, 60, 70, 80, and 90, let me see what that'd be. 170, 240, 300. That'd be $340 if you take all the 10s.
Yep, give online. You can go to our website, go to the give option,
a
and
little
there
fun.
should be youth ministry or teen camp fund. And
My wife also asked me to mention now that
Yeah.
some of the ladies are just kind of like to be together, and so they're going to plan to bring a sack lunch and social distance and meet in the parking lot on Saturday. So if you at noon, just bring a bag lunch or go to McDonald's and get a double quarter pounder with cheese and a large fry and a
Oh,
super
big that
sized
day.
drink.
Absolutely.
Ooh, heart attack waiting to happen. And bring a lawn chair to sit at some distance or however you want to do that and hang out with them for a little bit. I think that'd be a fun thing to do. So that's good. That's good. Well, I don't know what else we might need to talk about, but it's been a good evening together. We've done most of the talking, and I'm glad Trevor finally jumped in. He didn't want to talk about anything but hot air balloons, but that's all right.
Whatever.
That happens sometimes. And my apologies to Jeannie for wishing her happy birthday. Sorry, Jeannie. And she has to forgive me because I'm her dad. But thanks for joining us and being here tonight. And hope you have a great evening and continue to keep the faith in a season where there's still challenges. I heard our governor say there were only 2 COVID deaths over the holiday weekend, which is pretty significant. And some increase in the numbers. He was hammering Bowling Green and Lexington for not testing enough, but there is some consecutive days of decrease that he was celebrating tonight in his conversation. So we're glad for that, and trust the Lord will continue to get us through this season. And but thank you for being connected, and stay connected. And if you're not studying a text, jump in Revelation chapter 3, verse 20, and behold, I stand at the door and knock, and let it just work on you a little bit. And so let me say a little prayer for us, and then we'll buzz off on this Tuesday night. Lord, thank you tonight that, again, we had a pretty intensely spiritual conversation. I pray it was helpful to somebody. It was helpful to me just to know that I'm not weird and somebody else in this world operates like I do. Sometimes that's helpful. And so there's a lot of people out there probably operate like I do. And I thank you for the chance to talk about that in a very common way. And would you just spin our jump rope backwards, oh Lord, and get us out of those addictive kind of continual behaviors and thoughts that beat us up and beat us down. We really don't want that in our lives. And we believe Jesus can do that for us. We thank you for your great grace. Teach us to love you more and love one another more, and keep your hand upon us all until we meet again. These things we ask in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and everybody said, amen.